Happy Friday. So I'm excited to talk today about Epstein-Barr and to help everyone to crack the code on our understanding of Epstein-Barr. So let's dig right into it. So most people have been exposed to it throughout their life, and most people don't have that full-blown initial manifestation at the onset. So with Epstein-Barr, that initial full-blown manifestation, think of mono, the kissing disease, or that kid in high school, or your friend in high school who landed in the hospital with that high fever. That's the full-blown manifestation of mono, as what we kind of typically think about it. But the issue lies in that when the virus lies dormant in the body after we've been exposed to it, and then it reactivates years later down the road. And so this is something that chronic viruses love to do, but especially the herpes class viruses, and Epstein-Barr is a herpes class virus. So when you're in the throes of a activated Epstein-Barr activation, you can get fatigue, fever, achiness, sore throat, swollen glands, rash. I've seen increased stress, increased depression, mood changes, headaches. The Epstein-Barr virus loves the neurological system. You can get enlarged spleens, enlarged livers, and of course it can be a massive trigger for autoimmune disease, specifically Hashimoto's. It's like an instigator for the autoimmune disease pathway because of how the RNA is replicating in your body and affecting the immune system. So let's talk about, well, what is the personality of Epstein-Barr? What does he look like? So Epstein-Barr, you can think of it as the sneaky couch surfer. So it's a sleeping giant laying dormant, but when it wakes up, it likes to mooch off all your food in your house. So it's going to be mooching off of your body, basically. But it's sneaky about it until he actually wakes up. So how does this happen? Why? How does Epstein-Barr, how do we go from activation to this chronic phase? So Epstein-Barr is a human herpes type 4. It is very widely disseminated. So to get you some facts to kind of understand that, 90 to 95% of the adult population is seropositive, meaning that they are showing positive antibodies, that they've been exposed to Epstein-Barr before. So most of the population has these antibodies to Epstein-Barr. We all basically should have been exposed to it through high school, college, at some point in our life. The first point of contact is usually through our oropharynx, epithelial cells. And so that is basically the back of the throat, the tonsils. What happens is the outside of the virus, so the outer envelope of the virus, is going to bind to the CD21 cells that are lining the epithelium. And then it injects its RNA into the cell. And then voila, the virus has now moved inside the cell where it's going to hibernate and replicate and basically hijack your cells. And so when the virus gets inside the cell like that, we call it intracellular virus. And this is going to be a key point throughout how we treat the virus, from the fact that the virus is actually replicated inside your cells. Now, those CD21 cells are not just in the epithelium lining the back of your throat, it's also lining, it's in the T cells, the B cells, so the basic cells of your immune system, and the myocytes, which is your muscle cells. Those all have that CD21 cell, and so those become the host for the Epstein-Barr, and the Epstein-Barr is capable of transforming those cells as it replicates and exists. So what do I mean when the Epstein-Barr is transforming those cells? It's a lytic virus, so it's actually killing those cells. So kind of stepping back a little bit. So the virus injects its RNA into the cell, and then the RNA hijacks the DNA of the cell. And then the virus is then going to use the cell that it just hijacked as a place to start replicating. And as it's replicating, it's inside your cell, so your immune system's not necessarily going to see it. So this is where it's evading, it's sneaky, it's evading that immune system. So it's replicating, And then the virus basically, you can think about it like explodes the cell, and then it's going to releasing all these new viruses out into the body. So it's very sneaky with how it replicates inside your cell before it goes and disseminates the new viral load. So why is Epstein-Barr not present all of the time? If we've been, if 90% of the population has been exposed to it and it likes to hang out in the body, why do we not have it all the time? Well, it comes back to the overall immune foundation, the vis of the body. And the vis is a term that we use in naturopathic medicine, is your overall strength, your vitality. And so if you have a very strong, robust immune system, you overall have balanced hormones, you have a good vis, you have a good vitality between your adrenals and your hormones and your immune system and your gut, then you can keep chronic infections in check, much like Epstein-Barr. When the vis of the body gets weak, when it gets depleted, when it gets overloaded, that is when the virus, any chronic viruses, Epstein-Barr, herpes class viruses will start to come out. So not even just with Epstein-Barr, we see this with just your run-of-the-mill herpes, with HPV. They're going to replicate and come out when your body is more run down. So then let's talk more about the Epstein-Barr. So how does it become dormant in the body? How does it build that latency? And latency in the body meaning dormancy, kind of simmering in the background. So remember, Epstein-Barr likes to be inside the cells, that intracellular virus. So it is hiding inside your host cells, and your host cells are the epithelium, the B cells, the T cells of your immune system, and the myocytes of your muscle cells. So it's hiding inside those cells, effectively evading your immune system. And that allows it to be very persistent of a virus. And the interesting note of the virus, of this going back to the sneaky side of its personality, is that it will also restrict the viral expression. And so that will allow circulating immune cells to basically not see it. And it's through that it's also altering those cells' growth and proliferation. So it's very sneaky with how it is replicated inside your body. So now that I get a common question of, okay, so why did I get Epstein-Barr and then the person next to me didn't, if is this prevalent throughout? So it goes back to the persistence of the Epstein-Barr infection is a result from the dynamic interplay between how the virus is evading your immune system and its strategies and your immune system's host response. How strong is that immune response? How strong is your vis? So it goes back to the virus and its evasion techniques and the vis and the strength of your body. And so get a little bit more detailed in terms of how the Epstein-Barr is going to be sneaky in its personality. So it exploits the normal pathways of your immune system. So specifically the B cell differentiation. And as it gets into those B cells, it can actually be in this transcriptionally quiescent state. So like a very kind of you can think of it like an immune quiet state. And so it is not expressing all these viral antigens. And so it's evading that immune system recognition. And specifically two genes, the LMP1 and LMP2 that are encoded by the virus, allow the Epstein-Barr infected B cells to become a resisting memory cell, where Epstein-Barr persists in that, but it's quiet. It's quiet inside the cell. Now, Epstein-Barr can also affect B cells, young B cells that are in the germinal centers of the lymphoid follicle. So what all that means is basically that the lymph system is the dating bar of the immune system, right? The lymph system is where your immune cells are bringing antigens, possible infections to the lymph nodes, and that's where everyone's dating and they're swapping information back and forth, swapping bugs. It's basically dating at a bar. And then what we see is that, so that's where, we're getting a lot of trafficking between your B cells with the Epstein-Barr, but the Epstein-Barr will actually start to turn off certain viral proteins, allowing it to escape that immune surveillance. So let's talk about labs. Testing for infectious disease is very difficult because we're basically testing a tired immune system. So if we're testing a tired immune system, you might not be able to mount the full antibody response that we're testing for. So in terms of testing, it's definitely a little bit hit and miss. It's a little bit gray, and this is where we have to match what clinically we're seeing, what we're seeing in the labs. So generally with antibody testing, we have IgM and IgG. IgMs are basically going to be present when you're in more of a full-blown active activation of that infection. So this is not, you won't be having an IgM if you're in more of that dormant latency stage. This is the full-blown acute activation. The IgGs are going to be more of your immune system has seen this before. It might mean that it doesn't necessarily mean that it's just a memory. It could also be kind of that chronic dormant latency reactivation phase. So there's multiple antibodies. It's not just one. So we're testing for different parts of the virus. So there's the early antigen. This is the main one for activity. It's kind of the best for tracking the progress, generally speaking. Then there's a nuclear antigen and a viral capsid antigen. So these are they're somewhat useful, kind of that chronic reactivated, not as specific for what's happening today, but it's useful in that whole picture of, hey, has your immune system seen the Epstein-Barr before? How high are the antibodies? And generally speaking, if you've had full-blown mono, you're going to have higher antibody levels to the virus because you had the full-blown manifestation of it. Now there's PCR, which is where we're actually trying to capture the RNA in your blood. So this is really nice and specific, but there's a catch here. Remember, this virus likes to be inside your cells. So if it's inside your cells, then we're not going to be able to catch that RNA in your blood. And so this is really only going to be trackable and catchable and positive in the PCR if you're in that more full-blown active infection, because then as the virus kind of poofs out and starts spreading itself, that's when the PCR is going to catch it. So you could still be symptomatic and still have chronic reactivated Epstein-Barr with a negative PCR. So it kind of helps to, hopefully that helps you kind of understand a little bit of the labs that we're looking at. Common question I get is, so when do we retest? So great, we've determined that reactivated Epstein-Barr is an issue. When do we retest? Anytime you're testing the antibodies, you're testing immune memory. So you can't retest that soon. Your spleen will recycle antibodies every 3 months if they have not seen that virus. So usually when we go and retest, the first thing that we want to see is your antibodies have actually gone up, because that means that your immune system has more strength. It's now actually fighting this and mounting this response against Epstein-Barr. And then over time, 6 to 12 months, so very long time, then we'll start to see those antibodies drop. Usually maybe it's more in the 12-month time, because your immune system wants to keep these memory cells around. So that is the personality and the viral replication of Epstein-Barr. Let's talk about the treatment and kind of where to start. So I have some pretty big foundational treatment steps that I've discovered through my own journey of Epstein-Barr and also with treating my patients. So step one, we got to get you feeling better. And that means we need to give you an antiviral agent to just dampen the replication of the virus. Now, because this virus is intracellular, it's not going to knock out 100% of the virus. It's just going to dampen down the whatever replication we can actively do. So that's the tricky bit of it. And that's why this isn't a magic pill or an instant fix. So, and this is varied between the pharmaceuticals, the Valtrex, to other antivirals, to homeopathic, to herbal agents like astragalus, olive leaf, cat's claw, monolaurin. You basically have to find the right antiviral for your body. Now, the trick, especially with the non-pharmaceuticals, so more of the herbs, monolaurin, is that they possibly will not just be killing Epstein-Barr. they'll have a crossover into mold, Lyme. And so it's very common to get what we call that Herxheimer reaction, where as we kill off part of the infectious agent, your immune system then mounts a bigger response to those particles that have been broken up. And then you can feel like you have mono again. You can feel like you have the flu. You can feel like you get feverish and achy. And that's all this Herxheimer reaction. And so, and it's very common that Epstein-Barr is not just by itself, it's with other infectious microbes. And so that's just something to really watch out for and work alongside with your doctor, because you don't want to overload your detox mechanism. You want to be able to handle the Herxheimer reaction that happens. So then step 2 is going to be, we want to start to give some immune nutrients to start to do some building up of the immune response. The immune system can fight it. So vitamin A, zinc, vitamin D, well-researched. Immune glandulars I've liked a lot. Of course, there's homeopathic immune remedies. Basically, variety of tools. You just want to, step 2 is start to improve that immune system. Step 3 is start to repair the mitochondria. So mitochondria are the energy production units in each cell. They get destroyed and broken, not more broken, with chronic infections, chronic environmental toxicity. So this is a big step that has to get repaired in that whole Epstein-Barr process. Step 4 is going to be reducing your environmental toxicity, your environmental burden, opening up those detox pathways. This is critical. Now it's further down the list because usually we have to get some relief, stop that viral load before we get into the detox phases. And so first you just need to assess, well, what are you getting exposed to? Is it gasoline, pollution, plastics, mold, heavy metals? And then the second thing is, okay, let's work on opening up your detox pathways. And you need to do this with care and under guidance, because if you start mobilizing all these toxins, you need to make sure you get them out. Otherwise, if you just mobilize it, you could deposit it somewhere else in the body. So you always want to make sure you start with your primary functors, your liver, kidney, colon, lungs, and then you can go deeper as you open up those ones. Then step 5 is going to be finally doing bigger immune system repair. Now that your immune system, the viral load has come down, we've opened up your detox pathways. So this is usually going to be more your mushrooms, your reishi, cordyceps, astragalus. The herb is really good for this as well. So any type of immune system support to kind of really bring that back up. But there's a key throughout all of this, and this is the pin for treating Epstein-Barr, is stress. Stress, we know, triggers RNA replication of herpes class viruses and specifically Epstein-Barr. So until you define a new relationship with stress and adrenaline, you will always be on an antiviral. And so to break the cycle of Epstein-Barr, you have to learn how to manage day-to-day stress and to reestablish a new relationship with stress and adrenaline. I can tell you personally, this is where I struggled with. I love rock climbing, skydiving, mountain biking, ski racing, any type of adrenaline sport, I'm there, I love it. And I'm still doing those adrenaline sports, but I've learned how to manage my stress more in the day-to-day so that when I get a break from my adrenaline rushes, and that is what breaks the Epstein-Barr cycle, is learning how to reestablish your relationship with stress and adrenaline. So there's couple key takeaways of treating Epstein-Barr. I'm gonna kind of glance over these because I just want to help you understand when we go in and treat infectious disease, and specifically Epstein-Barr, how much we really have to take into account. It's not just as easy as giving an antiviral. It is, we have to do whole body root cause medicine, head to toe, inside and out. So diet, you really need to have a clean diet, healthy nutrition. Diet, as Hippocrates said, food is medicine. So diet is a place where you can reduce inflammation and reduce the immune system burden. Reducing food irritants, gluten, dairy, specific allergies or intolerances to you. Sugar is one of the most powerful immunosuppressive agents in our diet. And so really going back and doing deep overhaul of your diet is key. Healing the gut. The majority of the immune system is actually in the gut. And so gut health is huge. Toxins can leak through a damaged gut lining and cause the immune system to be overreactive and hyperreactive. And this is driven through the lipopolysaccharide pathway. So basically it's the whole endotoxemia in the gut. Your gut's more toxic per se and has higher inflammatory burdens. It affects the inflammation in blood and makes your immune system be more reactive and mount a higher response. So healing the gut is one of the foundational centers for just your vis, your overall vitality of the body. And then checking for other infections, because remember, Epstein-Barr loves to be with other guys. So that maybe it's looking at Lyme, cytomegalovirus, mold toxicity, for your fungal load, looking at that overall infectious burden. We're exposed to a ton of different stuff on a daily basis. And so if your visa, your foundational strength is low, then you're going to be more susceptible to having these things that we're exposed to. Viruses, Lyme, mold, you're going to be more sensitive to having those have impact in your overall health. Improving your sleep habits, so crucial. You can, if you want to get more detail into sleep, listen to one of the past recordings on resetting your sleep cycle. So this is so crucial and essential because at nighttime, when you go into that sleep, that's when you go into your repair and your detoxification process from the day. And if you're not getting adequate sleep, if you're not getting the right amounts of the deep, slow rave REM sleep, then you're just continuing to break down your body. Sleep is crucial to repairing your immune system. So much in the body is dependent on getting good quality sleep. And that kind of leads me to the last point of, you got to make sure you repair your circadian cycle, your adrenal axis, your hormones. These are all what give your immune system strength. So you can see how Epstein-Barr is not just about an antiviral, it's about literally whole body medicine, head to toe. And you have different foundational centers in the body that we want to focus on to improve your immune system tone. This is all also why treating Epstein-Barr is not just a one pill fix all. It's not a magic pill. It's a journey. But the silver lining to the journey is you get to walk away with so much improved health and it's from the inside, from the cells, from the genes, to the hormones, to the gut, to your sleep, to your endocrine cycle. Truly healing with Epstein-Barr is treating all of that. So I hope this was really useful for everyone and that you were able to take it away, some key points, and to help you start thinking about some of the deeper layers that goes into healing the body. All right, I look forward to seeing everyone next week. Take care.